Hey folks, this is Riker with my first update to my Diablo 4 Ultimate Mechanics Guide. In this video, there's going to be two main points we're going to hit upon, timestamped below. The first is revisiting damage buckets, how damage is calculated. Thanks to some new information, we have a much better idea now of the exact damage buckets in the damage bucket theory. And I wanted to clear up a mistake I made when explaining damage reduction. So first off, damage. Last we left off, we had damage bucket theory, meaning that there are several different buckets of damage. These buckets are multiplicative with each other, but the contents within a bucket are additive with each other. In short, multiplicative damage bonuses, i.e. extra buckets, are preferred over additive bonuses. So this is what the bucket theory previously looked like, but now, after some rigorous testing from the Max Roll boys, Northwar, Rudijo, combined with some theory crafting off of Lautner's database from Snowraven and the Diablo 4 subreddit Sorceress Discord community, we now know that those four top damage buckets all get grouped now into one. So what we're left with is your core stat for your class, whether it's strength, intelligence, whatever, that's its own multiplier. Vulnerable remains its own multiplier. Crit damage remains its own multiplier, and any variant as well. It's all additive within a given bucket. Crit damage and crit damage against all different enemy types. Sometimes you have just raw crit damage, sometimes it's crit damage versus crowd controlled. That's all additive with itself. And then we basically have the slop bucket. Damage against specific targets, or to specific targets, all that in the same bucket. Damage from different sources like Golem or Skeletal Mages, all the same bucket. Damage with your core skills, damage with lightning, all of this, same bucket. Damage while healthy, damage while fortified. Everything's been determined to be additive within this one slop bucket. That means that all these individual bonuses are less significant than their percentages would otherwise indicate. In other words, if you already have a bunch of damage bonuses from damage versus, damage from, damage with, if you then get plus 30% damage while, that won't actually be 30% more damage because it's additive with the rest. It's going to be something substantially less, which makes all of these modifiers a little less exciting. You'll likely still squeeze them into your build, just because you'll have room for the affixes, but it means that the biggest damage contributing sources are going to be vulnerable, crit damage, and core stat. And there's one that we've left out, and because of this, we're actually going to do away with bucket theory and we're going to bring in deck theory. We're getting rid of buckets. Think of it now like card decks, and you have four suits of cards. You have your diamonds, you have your hearts, you have your spades, you have your clubs. So each of the damage sources, it's its own deck. There's four decks, easy to remember, four decks, four damage sources. But then you got your wild cards. Anything that has an X in it, like a 10% X damage, that is its own multiplier. It's its own bucket. Think of X like extra. It's an extra multiplier on top of anything else. So anything that says 10% X more damage, that is always going to be 10%. It's not going to get diminished because it's not getting grouped in with anything else. Similarly, if you see anything that is giving percentage plus, the plus gets dumped in with the slop bucket. That's going to be with damage versus damage from. That's our spade deck over here. So the takeaway here is that the most powerful multipliers to stack are going to be those wild cards. Because in every other deck, the more you stack the deck, the more diminishing returns you get. Because within every deck, it's always additive, but you still want to play at least one card from every deck. It's just that the more you play from that deck, the more diminishing returns you get. That takes us now to my second point, which ties into diminishing returns. Damage reduction. Damage reduction does not have diminishing returns. 50% damage reduction is always 50% damage reduction. No matter how many other sources of damage reduction you have, it's always effective to get more damage reduction. Here's one way to think of it. Let's say you have 100 health. If you have 50% damage reduction, that means you're taking half damage. Another way of representing this would be to say that you take full damage, but you have double your health, so you have 200 effective life. If you then get another source of 50% damage reduction, that's another doubling of your life, up to 400 now. And if you get a third source of 50% damage reduction, that again doubles your life, up to 800 effective life now. Again, it doesn't matter what order the damage reduction applies in, it's always multiplying together. The main point is when you want to try to do the math and add up exactly how much damage reduction you have, that's when you play the math game of Zeno's arrow paradox, where if you have 50% damage reduction and you get another source of 50% damage reduction, that doesn't add up to 100, that adds up to 75%. It doesn't mean though that the extra 50% is less effective than the first 50%. It just means if you want to calculate exactly how much damage reduction you have, you can't just add the numbers. So the only time you really need to wonder whether it's worth getting more damage reduction is if that affix is competing with another affix that might be more beneficial to you. Like, is it worth getting 10% more damage reduction, or is it worth getting 30% more life? And there's really no easy answer to that, because it's going to depend entirely on your character's stats. In general, though, all reduction is a very important part of your defense in Diablo 4. Arguably the most important. So do go ahead and stack that wherever you can, and I apologize for causing confusion there. But I appreciate you folks dropping comments in the other video, clearing things up. Now, in case you missed it, yesterday I posted a video on picking the class that's right for you in Diablo 4. Do check that out if you haven't. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more Diablo content.